Father. Or should I call you Steve? Since it's a new year, maybe we should start cooking fresh with fewer smoke alarms this time. Your cooking's improving, but I can see the stress in your eyes. Anna's mom used this Blue Apron assemble and bake thing during our playdate. Pre-chopped ingredients, over 40 grams of protein, and just one pan to clean up. She just tossed it in the oven and boom, plating like she's got followers. So go to blueapron.com, Steve. Make 2026 the year you win dinner. Blue Apron. Get 50% off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code LISTEN50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Okay, here with Daniel. How's it going, Daniel?
I am all right. How are you? I mean, I'm better than all right. United won the first game of the season in devastating style, and so there's that. Yeah, and also I'm less ill than I had previously been, so I'm also celebrating.
Gonorrhea is finally gone.
Yeah, something like that. Herpes. I originally thought because there is something that I was told I had that turned out was herpes, and then I cast my mind back. Am I going to tell this story? When I was on my year off, one of my mates who I was sharing a room with got herpes, not like some kind of like nastiness on the skin. And me and the other guy I was sharing with, we cordoned off the room, like we got like a sheet and like fastened it to the walls and stuff. So he had his own little booth. And I was thinking about that when I thought I had it myself, but it turned out that I didn't, and no one knows exactly what I had. It appears that after a struggle of roughly 6 weeks, where I've almost survived it.
The ladies of Great Britain will be very glad to hear that you haven't got herpes.
God, that was very.
Yeah, I can't think of a nice way to transition into talking about the football, but United were pretty dreadful. I mean, I might go so far as to say that might have been one of the worst performances under Ten Hag. Mitigating circumstances, first game of the season and all that. Although I did think 8 pre-season games might have got us a bit sharper than we were.
Yes, it was exactly that. What have you been doing for the last bit of time if this is the result? Like imagine you're at work and you get sent off on a project for 8 weeks. And the project that you return is the quality of that, then you would be wondering what might get said by your employers. So I mean, that's all of them. I think it is just one game, and we did win it, and it is worth noting that. I mean, I thought that the goalkeeper did all right before we tried to toss it off at the end. I thought that was going to be a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when I first saw it, thought that was a pen, and then on replays I just wondered whether there was just enough doubt to not overturn it. The fact that the Dawson missed it as well, and then the second player coming from behind, who I can't remember who that was, actually did get the header in, so might be mitigating factors in not giving the penalty away there. And goalkeepers get a bit of leeway, don't they, to go challenge for a ball.
Yeah, I don't mind if that kind of challenge isn't deemed a penalty. I can't believe I'm going to make this comparison. I can't believe I know this, but in motor racing, and sometimes we all have to do things at work. And in motor racing, there'll be some kind of collision, and they call it a racing incident, I think is the terminology. And I was thinking that would be sort of my excuse for why I was trying to justify why that wasn't a penalty as well. That it's a physical game. You jump. Is it going to be the case that every time players contest the ball and one touches the other one, it's a foul, or one touches the other one in a certain way, at a certain velocity? I mean, we don't really know. It's very, very hard for us to be precise about what constitutes a foul in that situation. So you're sort of therefore allowing the referee to say, like, that's all right, that kind of collision is okay, or it's too much. That's sort of the judgment. Like it's very broad. So that was how I was explaining that I thought it wouldn't be, maybe it wouldn't be a penalty, but I did think he'd give us a penalty.
I guess the other analogy is striker has a shot, defender absolutely cleans them out after the shot is taken. It's never given, just never given. So I don't know. It's not exact analogy, but it's sort of similar. I suppose if it had been given, it wouldn't have been overturned. Like a bit like a DRS decision in cricket, right? Umpires call that one.
Which is fine. Which is fine. I'm happy. My ideal is we just always go with the bloke on the pitch at the time. So I'm more than happy with that. I'm happy with that. The goal line stuff is obviously fine. If we ever get to a point where we can agree what an offside rule is and tell you exactly what it is, offside or not offside, then fine, I'd take that as well. But otherwise, I'm just happy for the referee to make the decision. So that whatever it happens to be, and if it's not the one that you want, then remember that you're an adult.
Wow, that's hard.
And that your team has not your TA. I mean, your team has opportunities to make the decision of the referee irrelevant for 90 plus minutes. So it should almost never be the case that the match comes down to what the referee does, because if the referee makes one mistake at the end, say, how many mistakes of all the players? Like, how many chances did Wolves miss to score?
Yeah, 23 shots today, yeah.
Which is the second most by any team ever at Old Trafford since they started recording this in 03-04. And the most was Chelsea in 04-05, and they also lost 1-0. I just came up with that. No, I didn't opt to this.
Yeah, the interesting, I mean, you want to get even more nerdy about this. United actually XG'd Wolves today, despite having quite a lot fewer shots. So, I mean, it was just, United looked off it right from the beginning. There were very few passages in the game that really it flowed at all. It's obviously, it's the most banal analysis to say Marcus Rashford coming into midfield with his back to goal, trying to play like a number 9 didn't quite work. So that's clearly why we've signed a number 9. And then Mount and Bruno, like on top of each other all the time, they're always in the same zone. They're going to have to sort that out.
One thing I would say is that although Wolves were the better team, I thought United had the better chances in the first half. They had the 2 shots that went wide, but they were both from angles and from a bit further away. Rashford should have scored.
Yeah, he should have chipped the keeper,
right near the beginning, he should have scored. And all he had to do was get it past him. He was so far out that he just had quite a lot of options, and it was just sort of felt like a sort of a rushed finish in the end. And Varane should have scored as well, and so. But I mean, I'm not gonna say it yet, because obviously it's just one game. But I said that I thought Mason Mount was the wrong player, a good player but the wrong player. Not good, not quite good enough, but also just not the right kind of player. And that game is a reason why I think that. And they've got time to work it out. But if you've got a midfield 3 of Casemiro, Bruno, Mount, none of them are all of fast, strong, and fast and strong. I mean, that's none of them are all both of those things. And you need football, and unless you Busquets, Xavi, and
Iniesta.
Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta. Like, if you think about other great midfields, even like Modric is little but tough. So he's much tougher than what the Mount is, but Kroos is a big lad, and Casemiro, like young Casemiro. Now you've got Casemiro who's physical, but he can't cover the whole width of the pitch himself. And then the player that you needed, I think, is someone who is also physical, who could play in Casemiro's position if you needed to, but also can run forward with the ball and can move. Whereas Mount is another player who you sort of want the ball to be in the final third already for him to get on it. Whereas I wanted a player to help us get the ball from the first third to the third, like someone to play in that middle of the pitch to help get the ball there. I don't really think that Mount is that player. I think he's someone you want in and around the box. And United have already got almost the best one of those that there is. And so they need someone to fill in that bit in the middle. And I actually thought that maybe that would be what Mainu would do. And that actually, if Mount doesn't play brilliantly this season, he could well be second, not be first choice by then. But then, I mean, I can't remember who said that. I think it was the United Muppeteers guy said that Ten Hag wants him to play as a number 6, mainly. So maybe he's his friend Frankie de Jong, basically. But it's just, that's why, I mean, I'm sure Mount will be useful and have good games, but that midfield, Casemiro, Bruno, Mount, is not the kind of midfield that I wanted to see. And that's why this game is exactly why.
I mean, I couldn't help but think throughout the game that United are missing a bit of a cunt in there, just someone who's actually going to be a bit of a destroyer as well. And Casemiro can't really do that anymore. He hasn't got the mobility that he once had, or maybe he was just never that mobile. And it is a problem for United. And you can see why the club are probably still thinking about bringing in that kind of player if they could shift one of Maguire or McTominay or both. And I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't do some business in the last couple of weeks if they do manage to move one of those players on, just because the squad is clearly missing that kind of player. I mean, of course, like they wouldn't do the deal because it's a ridiculous fee, but Moises Caicedo is that kind of prototype of player. I mean, it's an insane fee, but
here's the thing, right? But you just could have had him for the Mount money and a little bit more, maybe. I mean, maybe you couldn't. But I mean, I guess he did go for quite a lot more than Mount in the end, so that's not a fair comparison. But it just felt like Casemiro, a lot of his best work, where we were like, oh, this bloke is really better than we thought he actually was, came near the opposing box. So I would have wanted another player who could do a bit of playing, a bit of where he usually plays, but also a bit like a kind of 6 and an 8, and allow them to alternate and Casemiro to be that as well. So when you need two players to be in front of the defense, you have that. And when you don't have like Wolves like striding through United's defense, I looked at the teams actually, and I thought Lamina, Gomez, Nunes, that's a good midfield. And I knew that Cunha and Neto give United problems as well, because we aren't physical enough, and we aren't quick enough. And about Ten Hag signed, I think Ten Hag signed well last season, even though obviously Malacia, we'll see. Anthony, I think, didn't have a good night tonight, but has shown enough to make me think he's a good player. But whether he was the best available, I mean, who knows? But let's see. Anyway, like we digress. The point is that teams running through United's midfield like that, and Tottenham will try to do the same. That they've seen it happen, and the question is Ten Hag just going to say, well, need to take Mount out, but he doesn't have anyone to play at the weekend who, apart from McTominay, really, who will be able to do that.
Yeah, I hope the reaction isn't, which we saw once in pre-season, to shift Mount to 10 and Bruno wide and bring in McTominay. I mean, like, because you might get a bit more defensive solidity, but you lose all your creativity. The balance isn't quite right. And maybe we're just overreacting because it was a really crappy performance, but it feels like there's still a bit missing.
Yeah, it's not. I don't mind. I mean, I think it's odd that they played so badly. I do, but it's more that I guess when you see the manifestation of something you thought would be the case immediately, then there's obviously an urge to say, "Well, I was right about that." But it doesn't look like Mason Mount, unless Mason Mount can become a different player. I mean, that's what it's going to take. Mainu's out until the end? Right. I think the end of September or something. And so, unless they sign someone, and I mean, the players that they're linked with, what do you? I mean, obviously the two that are being, we know that they're interested in, I guess, seem to be Onana and Amrabat. What are your thoughts on them?
Amrabat, I'm not a big fan of, and I said this on Twitter, and everyone pushed back. But he's a player who's got, for me, one good thing, that he uses the ball well and progresses the ball pretty well. I think he makes almost no defensive contribution, so it would be more of the same for me. He doesn't there's no, like, he doesn't defend, he doesn't tackle, he doesn't block, he doesn't clear, he doesn't do any of that dirty stuff. He had a good World Cup, but it's in a very different system, in a much slower pace of football. He wasn't even that good for Fiorentina last season, really. So I don't know. But just my opinion, of course, for what it's worth, but I'm not a big fan of Amrabat. And I just don't know. I mean, they were so dog shit last season, Everton. It's really hard to pick a player out from that and go, yeah, I can really see it.
I mean, to me, he's not looked. I'd like some height and physical presence. I mean, that was
it gives you
exactly
that.
What
yeah.
But do I see? Does he have the kind of feet that I think are necessary in the United midfield? Not according to what I've seen. Again, like, you got to trust Ten Hag, but I am starting to wonder if, like, this might, like, if you're spending semi massive money on semi-players, whereas I'd be thinking, can I put two of these together and get someone who I know is brilliant? Because it's not. I know that he needs players for the squad, but it's just not good. If Mount is what I'm saying he is, and then we sign either Amrabat or Onana, and they are what we fear they are, then we're still going to need another player. And then I guess also, while we're on the subject of what we might do with this team, and here's the thing, it's Ten Hag's team now, so he's under pressure. He's been backed more than probably any manager in the post-Fergie era, and he's chosen his players. So he does need to make this happen. But I feel bad saying that I would, because Wan-Bissaka played well tonight, but previous to his performance tonight, and I'm not going to change what I think based on one game, I would be spending the money that Pavard, I forgot about him. He's a good player, but worth having around as a utility player. But why is that? Would you not spend that money on the best right back that you could get?
Yes, it wouldn't be one I picked out. I don't know how real that is, or whether it's just agent talk because he's trying to get out, and also he's got a year left on his contract, so Bayern may be looking at trying to get a fee. Of course, we've only got a couple of weeks more of the transfer window, so thankfully all this stuff will be out of the way in 2 weeks' time. By which time United may have got annihilated by Spurs and Arsenal. Who knows?
Mount, I guess, the way you could have looked at Mount is that, well, he's an upgrade on Eriksen. But perhaps he is an upgrade on Eriksen as an overall package. He's better. But perhaps the things that Eriksen brought to the team that were good, Mount doesn't have. Like the calmness on the ball a bit deeper, the ability to spot and hit longer passes that Eriksen gave you, I don't necessarily think Mount has. He does have some delivery from a couple of good deliveries from set pieces though, which it was pleasing to see. But yeah, I just think to succeed properly at United, he's going to have to become a different player to the one we've seen. He's got to become an
and we've almost never seen that. So it's definitely a gamble. Then again, we've never seen that from Eriksen, although perhaps towards the back end of the season we understood why. For sure, if United play like that, push really high up, which they want to do to compress it and to enable the counter press, because you can't really do it unless your team's close together. United going to get carved open like that on occasion, and there'll be teams that are better at finishing than Wolves are, who will put one of their 20-odd chances away. So it's a balance. So it's going to have to be struck for sure.
Yeah, we did win the ball high.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of times won the ball in their half, but the actual pressing didn't look that good to me. I felt like Rashford could have. They weren't snappy into the press. Like the thing is also, it's not just the performance didn't work out. It felt like it was a bit listless. When it's the first game, you should have been waiting. You've been waiting all weekend to play, watching all the other dickheads get to it. You should have been at that like an absolute lunatic.
I wonder whether they. It was really
wet.
limp, and it felt like they were undercooked. And to use another cricket term, I just wonder, they had those 8 pre-season games, but how many? Maybe it's only the Lens game where the actual full first team played. Everyone was getting minutes under their belt, but maybe they just didn't all play together, and that's.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was slightly strange too. But you just, I guess, trying to get everyone fit and make it pleasant for everyone. But 8 games felt like there'd be I mean, I know the players coming back at different times, so there's also a bit of that. But they're training together as well every day. And some of them have been playing together some time as well. But there's no excuse for the lack of cohesion there, really. Yeah. In that, it's not because of anything other than it feels like that they just didn't.
And maybe that's it. Maybe it was just a dreadful performance, and we don't need to overanalyze it too much. And that's just what he was.
Well, we know they're better. We know they're better than this, and they will be better than this. It's just the things that we know are wrong with them have not. Yeah, Mason Mount is not going to. I don't know. Yeah, it's not going to address all the midfield issues. And I wanted one person who was going to do it, and it's going to need 2 probably.
Up front, started with Garnacho, Rashford, and Anthony, and I think probably none of them had a good game. I mean, it felt like, much as we like Garnacho's ceiling, and actually the thing I like about him is most of the time he makes the right decisions. Almost every time he got the ball, he made the wrong decision. Pass when he could have shot, shot when he could have passed, came inside when he should have gone the outside. It all went wrong for him. And although he's always direct, so you kind of take some of that risk with that kind of player. And same with Anthony, really, on the other side. Didn't think he had a good game at all.
He sort of looked more lively in the first half, actually, probably the most lively of the attackers. The ball was sort of going. It was weird. Like, most of United's play in the first half seemed to come down the right, which is unusual. But yeah, he faded, and we have these attacking players. We know they're good players, but none of them are quite amongst the best. And the hope is that they'll get there, but currently none of them are. And most of the other teams that we're competing with, not all of have someone who is. Like, obviously Kane's left now, but Tottenham had him, and City have got Haaland and other players. Liverpool have had Salah, Mane. Like, in order to stay at the top end of the table, you have to have players usually who are really like some of the best in the world in order to win the title. And I don't know if we've got that in any of the front three positions.
No.
And I probably still won't have it once Højlund starts playing. But the hope is that they get there. But in the meantime, games are off. We're going to struggle in games sometimes because unless you have that person that scores in almost all the games, or that amazing cohesion that you get from the best players,
right?
Then
those
it's
front three that I mentioned, they definitely didn't feel like they had cohesion. They weren't playing off each other. Rashford, it was really weird. I mean, clearly he was frustrated. He looked frustrated 15 minutes into the game, and trying to come deep with his back to goal. He's not that player who comes deep, gets the ball turned, sprays a pass out, and helps United construct a move. Kane has become that player. Didn't used to be that player. Has become that kind of player. Maybe Rashford can, although I'm not sure I see it.
He's a much smoother technician, Kane.
He is.
Rashford.
I mean, clearly Rashford is going to be, and where he was effective last season is off the left, and you hope that Garnacho grows and puts pressure on him this season, and that Højlund, it's a big ask of him. It'll be the first season in England. He's had basically only half a season at Atalanta, because all his goals last season came at the back end of last season. It's going to be a big ask for him to play a lot of games, but I suspect he might play a lot of games because United are going to be a lot better with an actual number 9 in there. I mean, clearly, just someone who can knit that together.
Yeah, I felt like there was a time, I think it was towards the end of Mourinho, and where it looked like Rashford was actually getting better as a centre forward. There was a 2-2 draw maybe, or a 3-3 draw, 3-2 at Southampton. That it looked like he was sort of starting to learn the position. I mean, he is better from the left. If I was him, I'd be learning to try and play centre forward, this being something that I could do, because I think Garnacho is going to come for his place quite soon. But it didn't work out well tonight. But it felt again like they didn't really know what they were doing. I mean, I thought they got a bit better when Sancho came on, but it might just be because there was more space around then. But the thing with Rashford is Rashford's not a smooth technician. He's an explosive player. So the coming short is all very well, but yeah, you're trying to get him to spin in behind. And I guess Andy Cole was not that kind of player when he arrived at United, and he became that kind of player. I don't know if Rashford's as good as Andy Cole. I mean, he can do some things. Like Andy Cole couldn't have played off the left as well as Rashford does, but just that adhesive first touch and the ability to just knock balls off one touch. I'm not sure he's ever going to quite have that. But yeah, again, it's just what the right combination is. It feels like the right combination will be, or the most often played combination will be Anthony, Højlund, and Rashford. And it feels like that should fuck some teams up. But everyone would have seen that, and they've seen how you can play against United, that you can get through that midfield until United do something about it. I mean, we know he wants to, but you've got to buy someone you think is good enough to play instead of Casemiro. And I mean, I feel like you're sort of looking for Casemiro's replacement, unless you think that is Mainu, in which case you need to try and find just the best number 8 you can. Just by, it's this. I understand if you want to spend less money on someone who's a bit younger than the best player you could have, so you have them for a bit longer or you develop them. I hate buying two shit
Yeah,
things
no, for sure.
instead
Yeah.
of one good one.
Yeah.
It happened to me once with a pair of jeans. I wanted to buy these Avisu jeans, and I think they're Avisu. And I know and they were quite rude, and they were expensive. And I decided not to buy them because I had a mate who ran the Tommy Hilfiger store in Oxford Street, and he could get me a ridiculous discount. So I went. I bought two pair of jeans with the money that I'd basically never wore. I can't remember if I ended up taking them back. The Avisu jeans went, and yeah, don't do that with football players either. And also, I wasn't with my wife at the time. And when that happened, that was like one of the things that made me realize I had to make that happen, because I knew she would never in a million years have tolerated that behavior. It would have been buy the good ones. Shut the fuck up.
It's what Liverpool did in the 1990s when they fell from the perch. A lot of the reason for that, as well as having some ridiculous managers like Graham Souness, they started buying like mediocre players, and lots of them. And it's like every single time. I mean, like, numbers are important, but for United right now, numbers are not important. We have a really big squad, pretty much the biggest squad in the Premier League in terms of like first team players.
We've got the biggest squad in the Premier League.
And the tallest floodlights. Yeah, so you're right. Quality now rather than quantity is that I don't know that there's a lot of benefit bringing in another sort of squad player there. And maybe Ten Hag will decide that too, and we just won't do any business towards the end of the season, except for maybe another defensive player if Maguire goes.
I mean, I'm not sure exactly who. I mean, I haven't actually spent that long thinking about who the player that I want is, but I mean, I guess I would have tried probably for Caicedo, which is like no great insight from me there. But I'm absolutely certain also that there are players who are as good as Caicedo who you could purchase for a lot less if you were sensible about how you found them. I just can't believe that you look for a midfield player, and the best you think you can do for 30 million quid or 50 million quid is Amadou Onana and Sofiane Amrabat. And it doesn't mean that I want you to, like, the best football team doesn't have all the best players in all of the positions. So it's not about signing a team of superstars. I think the point is obviously you work out the kind of player you want, and then you have to get the best version of that. And I don't feel like it can possibly be either of those two. I'm just certain that there are players who would come to United. I mean, the other player that the United Muppeteers said United were looking at was Kefren Turam. I've no idea if he's any use. I guess you can infer that Liverpool thought he was less good than Lavia and Caicedo, probably.
Fun and games over at Liverpool at the moment. Could well lose out to Chelsea for two midfielders in the same week. There's something about buses there, or like getting bitten once. I'm all in favour of the top bants of Todd Bowley outdoing Liverpool, or something like that, I think.
This Chelsea situation is just absolutely insane. I mean, are they just going to buy as many players as they can, and by the time the FFP regulations, punishments kick in, it doesn't make any difference because they can't sign any more players because they already own all of them. Like, but seriously, like, if the punishment's a transfer embargo, I mean, well, so what?
They could well have decided that. I think it's all back of the envelope stuff because we don't actually know the cost side of the equation. But it looks like they'll miss their FFP by miles. And they have sold quite a bit. They won't be able to book all of this summer sales, because they'll still owe some amortized costs on some of them. Mount they can take all in. That's actually a very good deal for them in terms of like an FFP thing. But they spent £900 million since in the last three windows, and they've sold not anywhere near that, and they just don't make enough money to make the sums add up. So unless there are £300 or £400 million of unrealized costs sitting there somewhere that we didn't know about for some reason, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. But what are the punishments? I mean, they could, in theory, get kicked out, and UEFA have taken this kind of weird, like, lax policy of letting clubs decide when they're going to take that punishment. So Milan took that when they were going to be in the Conference League, right? And they were like, yeah, okay, we'll miss European football this season. We'll do it now. and it's just like felt like because they're going to miss out on the Conference League, which actually for many clubs is a loss leader. They don't make money out of that because there's almost no TV money and prize money in that one. So if Chelsea like somehow sneak 7th this season and they've failed their FFP by miles, the UEFA FFP is different than the Premier League one for now, then they might go, yeah, all right, we'll miss out on this one. Bad us. So,
yeah.
Or if it's a fine like City, what difference does that make if it's a fine?
At least in midfield, they have done what I think one of the ways of doing it. They bought Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, who they paid enormous green for, but they bought players who are probably going to be among the best players in the world in that position for the next decade. They may or may not stay at Chelsea. That may not happen. And and I think that when you have players of that description, it might not be right with Lavia in there, but they're going to be fucking hard to beat and get at. With let's say that's the midfield. Lavia, Caicedo, and Fernandez. They're probably lacking a little bit of creativity guard around the box, but you're immediately no one like running through those three is not going to be easily done. And they've done it by just spending ridiculous money, whereas United have not spent ridiculous money on Mount, and that's the thing, he sort of falls in between that stall of the young speculation who should get better, and you think will go on to be the best in the world, and someone who already is getting close to that. But I mean, other than that, I mean, that squad, like that team they put out yesterday, given all the money they spent, was
it is weird when you look at a Chelsea team after they've spent £900 million, and you go, well, I could do with a bit more of a. I mean, Sanchez in goal, fucking hell! It's just how do you spend 900 million and have him in goal? It's mad. And he went absolutely wandering, didn't he, for the Liverpool goal? Or was it the one that was chalked off? Forget now. Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll get some funny games the last 2 weeks of the window. I guess Liverpool are still looking for a midfielder and they must have money. And Chelsea are to fight it out for Lavia, and United, maybe will be in the mix for one, although it's not clear that it will be a really top quality signing. So we've got, I mean, before the window closes, we've got Forest, Spurs next, isn't it? Next weekend, then Forest, and then Arsenal on the 3rd of September. I guess the window's closed by then.
Yeah, it's not easy that. So I think Tottenham were also very. I watched Tottenham yesterday. They were very open and they could have beaten Brentford, but they could also have lost. Maddison is a good player, but they don't. And Bissouma played all right, but I think that the way they'll play is probably more suited not because Postecoglou will want them to play how Wolves did. I just don't quite think they've got the right players. Whereas Wolves kind of had those strong, hard running players in midfield who. Spurs don't quite have that, but obviously Spurs away is a difficult game, and the question ultimately is: do United do you change it? And I think, mate, I mean, do you take Sancho? You put Sancho in for Garnacho, playing through the middle.
Interesting question, that one, because it didn't really work today, did it? Not that Sancho playing up through the middle is that it makes the ball stick anymore. Although when he gets it, he's good in those tight spaces, isn't he? And I think that's one of the things we saw in pre-season. Yeah,
and he's a good finisher.
He's a good.
So if you were to put Sancho at least, and the other reason you might put Sancho there is because it means you can put Rashford on the left. And much as I said, I think if he could play centre forward, it'd be very helpful for this team and for him too. I think at this point, after a performance like that, you probably need to get him back on the left. You need to play Sancho maybe through the middle. And I don't know, in midfield, I don't really want to put McTominay in there. I'm just trying to think who Spurs played: Bissouma, Skip, and Maddison. And obviously Bissouma and Skip are big athletic runners. I don't think they're as quick as good on running with the ball as what Wolves
Spurs
had.
Played 3 at the back. I can't remember now. I'm forgetting. So
Postecoglou loves the 4-3-3. They played 4-3-3. Just going to see if I have my paper with their team on it here. But I don't think I do that. Udogie played at left back, the guy that they just signed, the guy that's come from Udinese. And the centre backs were Van de Ven and Romero, but Romero got concussed after scoring. I mean, it's still not a good team, but Son to me looks like he's lost the yard, and sort of with it, he was a great finisher. The confidence in the finishing seems to have gone a bit. Kulusevski is a physical brute, not quite good enough to play that team above Spurs, I don't think, but a good player. Richarlison, similar, not good enough to play in a better team than Tottenham, but can be good and has quite a lot of abilities. I mean, United should beat this team, but as I keep saying, the problem it was the way that the team gelled and was structured made you think that something isn't right in the balance that isn't going to change until you sign another player, which sounds wrong. Like, it shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't when actually United managed to do the business early. And it shouldn't be like that. But look, hey, as crap as United played today, got away with one, didn't lose like against Brighton. I don't expect United to go to Spurs and get hammered like we did at Brentford. So it would be very odd. Although, I mean, we were so open today. Wolves could have scored 3, couldn't they? Or 4.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously, it probably won't be like that against Tottenham. I don't think that is more or less as badly as that group of players are capable of playing. And they did win. And they did keep a clean sheet. And were there that many times when I thought Wolves should score or are going to score? Not really. There was the one that hit the post.
That was Cunha.
Cunha. That felt like only you've got a score moment. So they had a lot of dangerous situations and chances, but there weren't many where I thought, "Oh Christ, they're going to score here."
He's a funny player, Cunha, because there's a lot of what you see in him. You think, he's lively. He's good at the ball with his feet. He moves into the channels really well, and he's just a dreadful finisher. And it's been true of every club he's been at: Union Berlin, Atletico. Where did he come from before that? Inter. Yeah, he just has a very poor goal scoring record because he's not a good finisher. The rest of it looks good. So I mean, I guess we should be thankful for that because he managed to miss one from 3 yards out.
There's never in the history of football been anywhere near as many brilliant players, especially attackers, as there are now. Like players with ridiculous ability. So against loads of teams, if you like, there are players that can hurt you. The top teams are still smashing them most of the time because their players are even better, and they've just got so many of them that when games aren't going their way, they've just got so many options to turn them their way. But if you have a bad night and players that Wolves have got have a good night, then you see a game like that and that didn't used to be the case. I would say, like, the teams like Wolves are miles better than teams who were similar status 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, there's been a concentration of talent in the Premier League because of the like. So
I think there is more talent also, though. Just there is more talent.
I mean, probably like the academy setups across Europe are very, very, very similar, and they're producing a lot of very similar kind of players. I mean, there's a question mark that obviously is a debate amongst football folk about why all these academies are producing these sort of technical wide forwards and not too many straight up number 9s, because there aren't too many. So
I think more kids want to be footballers globally. It's not just the coaching, it's even before they get there. The system is set up not to miss anyone. If you're good enough, someone will probably find you. And more people, and also I just think the ability to become good. Like I played a game recently. I played recently with some 15-year-old kids, and there's some stuff that obviously always stays the same. That doesn't, like, do you have a better sense? Do these kids have a better sense of where the ball's going to drop in the box than people older? No. Do they have necessarily a better appreciation of where the holes are and where the passes are? No. But their ability on the ball, like the things that, like their technical ability, the tricks, the quickness of foot, is obviously miles better than what was going on when I was that age. Just because if you look at the players that we're watching, they're just doing more of that. There's so much more skill and trickery in the game, particularly post Ronaldinho. But you've got defenders with ridiculous feet, and that didn't exist previously. So the level of the game is always, in some sense, in some sense, going up. So you see that with Wolves, like look how their defenders everyone can play, everyone in their team can play, and if you ally that to some organisation and some massive athleticism as well, and just also, I think the main difference in the end was just the conviction.
They really did.
They attacked that game in the way United. They started slowly, and there was just at no point. I mean, I was doing the live blog, and I said United might score because they've got some quality players, and you've only got to leave them alone for once and get done. That was what happened. I think United there was no point at which I felt United were going to play better.
No, and they were saved by one moment, like Aaron Wan-Bissaka getting an assist. I think that equals his assist tally for last season, that does. And Rafa Varane absolutely loved scoring as well. It didn't feel like that was disingenuous either. Maybe it's the release of frustration from playing poorly, but he loved that moment, Rafa Varane.
Well, I think also there's relief, isn't there? Because he'd missed the first one, and he very rarely scores also. But I mean, I was really pleased for Wan-Bissaka because I mean we've been saying this on here that he's looked like he was on the way out. He's been much improved since he came back, and his attacking players improved, but he still lacked any numbers.
Yeah.
Like literally any numbers to speak of. I think like no assists, no goals last season. I think, and ultimately the ball carrying is okay, but if United aren't a threat down his side of the pitch, he is not a good enough right back to play for United. And he got some rewards tonight. He did really well. It was a lovely goal.
Very good. All right. United's problem solved. We just need to go and spunk another 50 million quid and it'll all come together. Something like that. There's a week off. They've got a training game on Tuesday against Everton because we need another one, apparently. Maybe Ten Hag knew already that they weren't quite sharp enough. So I'm looking forward to Sean Dyche's men sticking it up them and us coming out with another few injuries. By the way, was Lisandro Martinez injured, or was that just because he got booked for flying into a player?
Probably felt like that, but one because he'd almost, I think there'd been at least one, possibly two other occasions where he'd almost had to make a tackle, and you can't really have that. So, I mean, it seems sensible. I didn't feel secure that he wasn't going to get himself sent off for sure.
Very good. All right, Spurs next weekend. I guess we'll be back before then with the midweek pod. If there's something moving in the transfer market, or we hear something about the Mason Greenwood situation, although they appear to have kicked that can down the road yet again. I don't think the club, just not to repeat or everything I said from the last pod, but I don't think the club they're quite prepared for what is going to happen when it comes out. Because I think we know what decision has been made now, don't we? Because if it was any other way, we'd have been told. He's going to get reintegrated back into the squad. I don't think the club are quite realising how strong the pushback is going to be. But they will do soon.
Well, now has the story changed? Not to they're going to consult with the women's team, but they're going to inform them of the decision.
Yeah, that was Jamie Jackson. Apparently, got it dreadfully wrong. They're going to inform them, not consult. Yeah,
right. And if it's he's going, are you even bothering informing them?
He's going to be reintegrated back into the squad. That's why the decision. That's why they're manoeuvring it all this way round. And clearly there was that statement that came out from a group of female United supporters pushing back against it. And I think there was some kind of protest today. I didn't actually check the media for what coverage of that there was. But yeah, for a club that's very sensitive on the PR, they are going to get some blowback, and rightly so, I think.
I mean, I don't want to prejudge it and speak as though the decision has been announced, but it doesn't look good. The amount of time this has taken doesn't look good. Nothing. And I just, I got the inability to do the right thing on this because it's so obvious what the right thing is. And it's not that And people will talk about rehabilitating Greenwood, and he shouldn't be banned for life from doing these kinds of things. But I guess in the first instance, he's not uppermost in my concerns. The concern is, morally, does he have a right to play for Manchester United? Was what he did wrong enough for me to think that privilege should be revoked? Yeah, I do. And if someone else wants to take him and rehabilitate him, that's up to them.
Right. And I think that's the right framing. Yeah, he always gets kind of positioned in the media as, what's right for United, and that's not the question. It's just not. That's so far to the back of my mind, and it should be. I think. What is the right thing first? This is a HR question, and a PR question, a HR question for the club, and a PR question, and a financial question, but mostly it's an ethical question. Anyway, maybe we'll hear some more, or maybe they'll never tell us because no decisions are ever made at this club with any speed, including on the pitch tonight. Pretty slow all around. Anyway, thanks a lot, folks. We'll catch you soon.
Please.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.